You're listening to Sensitive Changemakers. This podcast is created for highly sensitive leaders and is designed to support you to embrace your strengths and gifts so you can feel more confident in your own mind and body and live a life with intention, purpose, and more importantly, joy. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP who has a BA Honours degree in education, is a fully trained and qualified professional coach and NLP practitioner, and has over 17 years of teaching and over 3 years of coaching experience supporting highly sensitive people. I believe that you can do anything you want to in this life, but that sometimes the path forward becomes muddy with self-doubt and fear of failure. It's my mission to help sensitive thought leaders peel away the self-doubt and stories holding them back, for them to see their own beauty and strength so they can increase self-confidence and self-trust through thought and embodiment work, and see their path clearly and move forward confidently, living their life with intention and purpose. I would love for you to come and join us. Hello and welcome. I hope you are having a wonderful week as always. This episode is actually coming out a little bit later than it normally does, and that is because I completely switched off over the weekend, which is so I normally record them on a Friday, and I was away for a long weekend to celebrate my sister's 40th, which was actually back in March, but we'd booked her a weekend away, just the four of us. So that is myself, my two sisters, and my mum. And I was umming and ahhing whether to kind of force it in and record it before I went away. And a couple of years ago, that's exactly what I would have done. I would have tried to force it in. And this time round, I just thought, actually, I just want to take this time to enjoy spending time with my family and not try to shoehorn something in just because I felt it needed it. And I knew when I was going away that I would have some insights or something I wanted to talk about. And that is exactly what I'm going to provide you guys with today. So to give a little bit of context, we always try and do these kind of girly weekends away every year. It doesn't always happen, definitely didn't happen over COVID. But we have been on quite a number of them over the years since we've had kids. I think it started off as a way to take a little bit of a break from being a parent and to remember what it was like to be just a human being. I'm smiling because if you're a parent, you know what I mean. You love your kids unconditionally, but you do need to remember that you are a human in your own right and an individual in your own right. And so we started them. I don't think my son was very old. So he was born in 2010. I think we probably started them in about 2012, 2013, something like that. And we've been to Oxford. We've been to Leicestershire, which is not far from where I live. We've been to a couple of lodges there, been to Bourton and Underwater, upon water. I'm from that area and I still don't know. It's Bourton on the water, I think. Where else have we been? We've been to a vineyard in Gloucestershire. We've not been too far away from home, but we've always tried to go to different places. And this time we'd booked a place in Aberley. And it's always a time for completely just de-stressing. And my mum is incredibly organized, and she'd written a list for this time. She always jokes. In fact, she did say this on Friday that we keep her young. So she is 68 this year. And she still gets so excited about these weekends away. So she'd written a list about all the things that she wanted to take away. She'd got it all organized. By the time I turned up to her house on Friday, she'd been to the shops and got some food and got all the kind of stuff that we needed. So that when we got to the place, we knew we didn't have to then go out and go and get a load of stuff or start planning cooking or anything like that. We had everything we needed. We'd booked a restaurant for the Saturday night. And so we were kind of all sorted. So we could just go there and completely switch off. And it's really tough to switch off. First world problems and all that. And I do realise how privileged we are to experience these weekends away. So put that to one side for the moment. I do realise that. But what I wanted to come on to talk to you today is how tough it is to switch off. And I feel out the three of us sisters, I'm the one that likes relaxing the most. I could say that it borderlines on lazy, but I don't think it does. I think, and maybe this is me being defensive, I think over the years I have pushed a lot in my past where I've just pushed through, pushed through, pushed through. And as you know, if you've been listening to these recently, that has had actually led to some real, not serious, but some difficult health issues where I really haven't had a choice but to stop. And so I feel like I'm getting to the stage, and I know I'm 42, so it could have happened 10 years earlier. That would have been really helpful, but it didn't. But I'm getting to the stage now where I'm really understanding when to stop, when to rest, when to push myself, because sometimes every so often, if I did take the easy route out all of the time, I wouldn't get anything done. So there are times when I do need to go, this is important to me. That means I've got to dedicate the time to this. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, I know if I push myself too hard just because I think I should or I have to, then I do end up completely burnt out and just feeling really, really poorly. And I think out of the three of us, I'm probably the best at getting that right. My two sisters are incredible people in their own rights, and they are incredibly busy people. And we all kind of sat around on Saturday because it was such a beautiful day. We were blessed with lovely weather. We had a hot tub, so it was just wonderful weekend. And we were sat in the garden, and we kind of just all sat there for a little bit and kind of stared into space, not saying anything to each other. It's really difficult, isn't it? To not do something, to not feel like, got to go and make dinner, got to go and make lunch, got to go and take the kids to their swimming lessons or their dance lessons or whatever, and just know that we can actually just spend that time to completely switch off. And that was really difficult. And the other thing that I found was quite difficult, and this comes through a conversation I had with one of my sisters, is sometimes the anxiety that can come around worrying about what your kids, husbands, better halves are doing at home while you're away. And it comes from this what if. What if they don't know that that's there? What if, Sophie, for example, wakes up in the middle of the night and Damon doesn't wake up and all of these different worries and concerns come up. And again, that stops us from relaxing and enjoying the time that we've got. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because if you've ever read a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, he talks about the upper limit. And it's such an interesting concept because I talk a lot on this podcast and in most of my content about how it's difficult when we are anxious and we're overwhelmed and we're pushing through and we're stressed and all of those different things and how tough that can be, how exhausting that can be, because it absolutely is. But it's because it's difficult to experience those negative emotions. And I'm going to name things negative and emotive and positive here, even though I do feel that emotions are just messages. I really truly believe that. I think that they are just messages telling us something. But for today, and you'll understand why I'm differentiating here, just to make it clear for everybody, so that I hope it makes sense to everybody. But those negative emotions, that anxiety, that overwhelm, it is really difficult to kind of sit with that and understand it and to move through it or to release it or whatever the language you want to use around that, which, resonates with you. But it is tough. But on the flip side of that, we don't fully appreciate how difficult it is, or it can be, to actually sit with positive emotions, to sit with, like we were at the weekend. We don't have anything to do. All we've got to do this weekend is to relax and enjoy ourselves. We've got a hot tub. We've got all the food we need. We've got beautiful sunshine. We don't need to be anywhere. We don't have anywhere to go or anything to do. And instead of completely being present and enjoying all of that wonderfulness that is there, we find ourselves worrying. Well, what happens if this is going on, or what happens if they need this, or etc. And it's called, in Gay Hendricks' words, it's called upper limiting. It's where we get to our kind of limit of feeling good. We get to that kind of just, I'm feeling really, really good. And now something bad must happen because I'm feeling so good. We can't kind of fully experience that happiness, that joy, whatever that positive experience that we're feeling at the moment. We can't fully feel into that because we're upper limiting ourselves, because we get to a point where we go, no, this is feeling too good now. That means something bad's going to happen. This is feeling too relaxing now. So where can I find something to do? Does that make sense? So please let me know if it doesn't. I'll try and break it down further. But and he gives in his book, he gives so many examples of different people who have upper limited themselves. So they've got to a stage where things are really, really, really good in their lives, and they've self-sabotaged because they cannot enjoy that that amount of happiness or that amount of joy. They feel that it feels so wrong in their body that they have to sabotage that and go and find something. And they're not just like everything when we're talking about the overwhelm and the anxiety as well. It's not done on a conscious level. It's not like you're sat there going, wow, this is just too much fun. I feel I have to go and ruin it by doing something that isn't fun. It's not a conscious decision. It is a very subconscious feeling. It is a way of kind of stopping ourselves from truly experiencing that joy. And this is kind of the lesson that I took from this weekend. It was one of the best weekends I've had in a very, very long time. We had so much fun, so many giggles. Like I said, the weather was amazing. The hot tub was probably one of the best hot tubs we've had. And I'm going into detail about the small things because I think sometimes the small things, in fact, no, all of the time, the small things are always the things that matter. And we've had a lot of hot tub weekends away. And you know what it's like if you experience this. And again, you may not have had a hot tub experience. I definitely hadn't had one until I was in my 30s. But most of them, some of them are not very nice. Some of them aren't very well maintained or very well cleaned. This one was fantastic. There were absolutely, the heat worked fine, the bubbles worked fine. It was clean. It was just a really nice hot tub. Again, I know I'm going over the small details here, but there is a point to this. We went out to the restaurant on Saturday. We had a beautiful, beautiful walk in the countryside, absolutely stunning. And we had a wonderful experience at the pub. We had some lovely English sparkling wine, which we really do enjoy. And I think without going down a rabbit hole, I think English wine is generally getting better nowadays. So that was really nice to experience something that was relatively local. The garden at the pub was amazing. It just was on rolls and rolls of fields. The meal was fantastic. We couldn't fault it, any of us. The people working there were amazing and incredibly just incredible in the detail to the service that they provided. So every small little thing was fantastic, and yet I couldn't sleep, and neither could my sisters. Oh, one of my sisters slept really well. Um, but we didn't sleep very well. And when we woke up on the Saturday morning, we were all a little bit like, did you sleep? No. Did you? No. And we were just talking about how we couldn't switch off, how we were thinking about, and it is a form of this upper limiting. When's the other shoe going to drop? We're having such a wonderful time. When is something going to go wrong? And if you resonate with this, I'd really love to know your story, first of all. Please do get in touch if you've experienced something like this, where you have had a wonderful experience or something is going really well, and then suddenly you start worrying about something, or something starts playing on in your mind, or you self-sabotage and something changes so that it doesn't become a good experience. Um, I would love to hear from you because I think it happens so, so often. And it is because we talk a lot about how difficult it is to sit with negative emotions, but we don't talk about how uncomfortable it can feel to actually sit with positive emotions. And especially if you come, now we were talking about this with me and my sisters, we do come from a family where my dad especially, he always says, I don't like getting excited about things. I don't like getting excited about things because it just invites bad things to go wrong. And so we grew up in that kind of environment of when's the other shoe going to drop. So obviously we've all been brought up in that. So we all have similar kind of experiences there, which I feel does feed into this as well. But I would love to hear if you've had something similar. And I think it's really interesting to see that what we do in these situations is we manufacture something so that we bring ourselves back down to a feeling that we're used to. And it doesn't matter if that feeling is not necessarily what we would consider a positive feeling, as long as it's something we're used to, because as soon as it gets back to something we're used to feeling, that's okay again. And again, it doesn't our brain doesn't really care if that feeling makes us miserable. It likes normal, like the normality of it. It likes the habitual side of things. So if something is feeling really, really good and we're not used to feeling really, really good, we will normally do something in order to bring ourselves back down to a feeling that we are used to. And it's really tough if you're not aware of that, of how to support yourself in enjoying that positive aspect because there's so much if you think about just saying that out loud, enjoying the positives. There's so much, there can be anyway, so much guilt attached to it, so much feelings of being selfish around just enjoying something good. And so what I really invite you to do today is to think about maybe events, things that have happened to you in your life where you found it really difficult to sit and enjoy something, or where something has happened and you have manufactured something where on a very, probably more than likely on a very subconscious level to bring you back down to feelings that you are used to. So I would love to hear from you. And second of all, I would really love for you to think about how you could lean in to that positive experience, that happiness, that joy. How can you lean into that? And I'll tell you where it comes up for me the most. This is where I know that I self-sabotage is when it's always around my kids. So one of the ones, for example, was at the weekend. Another one is right now. So my daughter is away and it's only her second time of being away for school. And I've had quite a good day today, very relaxed, but in the back of my mind, what if she's okay? I hope she's okay. What if she's not okay? And again, it's that manufacturing something that I could be worried about to bring me back down to feelings that I'm used to feeling because I was having such a good day today. It's almost like a guilt of, oh, I shouldn't feel this good because. And so it's really interesting for me going through this, and again, just using me as an example here of how I could lean into that feeling of positivity, that feeling of relaxation, that good day. How can I lean into that and enjoy that even more? And it comes back round to that mindfulness, doesn't it, of being fully present, which is sounds so simple and it is, but it's not always easy, is it? So how can we kind of just fully experience that present moment and be there so that we can enjoy that positive? And the argument, or should say the way that Gay Hendricks talks about it is he talks about if you can actually transcend, is what he calls these upper limits, you can actually expand your potential for happiness and abundance. And he talks about, and I'm probably going to butcher what he says here, but I'm not going to say it's word for word, but please go and read the book because it's a fantastic book. I've read it like two or three times and I learn something different every time. But he talks about how he's in a place now where he hasn't done anything he didn't want to do for a very long time. And whether you agree with that or not, it's an interesting perspective to have on life because most of us are told, life is hard. There's always going to be things. I tell my kids there are always going to be things you don't want to do in life. And while that may be true, it's just an interesting perspective to hear somebody else say that he doesn't, that he does what he enjoys doing or wants to do most of the time. And he puts it down to this exploration and leaning into this feeling of happiness and abundance and joy. And I think it's such a foreign concept for so many of us that how do we do that? And there are lots of different ways that you can do this. So if you're not sure and you're listening to this and thinking, Kate, I get where you're coming from, but I have no idea how to lean into this. Some of the things that I do, and again, I still feel I'm very much on this journey. I will look at gratitude. I think gratitude is such an undervalued tool sometimes, but it is so, so powerful. And just kind of looking at the smaller things rather than the big things, like the actual small, tiny details in a day that have supported you in feeling good, in enjoying something. So that's one way that I kind of practice this. Another way that I really lean into feeling good is using a dial. So like it's an imaginary dial. And if I'm feeling really good, so I might say, right, where am I on my dial from 0 to 10? 10 is like amazing, 0 is rubbish. Where am I on my dial? It might be like a 7 or 8, like it's a really good day today. I'm feeling really good. Okay. And I might just sit there and go, what would it feel like if I turned it up to 9? How would I feel in that? And for me, it is just about just the same as when I'm working with a client, I encourage them and we support them through sitting with those feelings of maybe uncomfortableness or when you're feeling a little bit anxious and overwhelmed, and just actually learning to sit with that and know that you're okay through that. It's the same process on the flip side of that. So actually sitting with feeling positive and feeling really good about something, and actually just sitting and learning to sit with that. And how does it feel? And what comes up for you? And how can you lean into that? And how can you sit with that? And it becomes then a habit. And with most things, the more we practice them, the more they become a habit, the more they become automatic. And then you do find, because your external world is always a mirror and a representation of that internal world. So if we can kind of lean into that positivity when it happens, when we're having a really good time, if we can lean into that and sit with that and make it more of a habit so it becomes automated, that means we feel good on a more regular basis. And that will lead to seeing very big changes externally. And I'm going to leave it there because I could keep going on. But I would love for you to just go and sit with this and see what comes up for you. And I'll be back next week with another episode. Sending you so much love. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 15-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so, so much.